Well, hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about a little thing that I call miscellanea. It's the few odds and ends that I bring on a trip that just make it much more comfortable, more enjoyable for me. So first, let's take a quick look at what we've gone over so far. And we've gone over the big three: shelter, pack, sleep gear. We've gone over water purification and hydration, stoves, and optionally mess kits, and my first aid and hygiene kit. That's only 7 or 8 items, and that's the bulk of my equipment. So I really do try to be functional and carry the minimum, but there's still a lot more to go over. So this is what we've still got to go over. Clothes, including rain gear, my trekking poles and hiking boots, some food storage related things, and today's topic, which I call miscellanea, which, yes, is the plural of miscellaneous, despite what I call my bag that you'll see in a little while that I keep all that stuff in, or a lot of that stuff in. Um, and up till now, while I've been emphasizing that you shouldn't just go out and buy the same equipment that I've got, you could if you did. I mean, a sleeping bag would work for you if you bought the same sleeping bag as me. Just as an example. But some of these other things, especially when we get to the miscellanea and the clothes, boots, trekking poles, maybe not so much. We're really getting into personal, very individual, I guess is a better way to put it, very individual choices that you make. And then finally, we will be talking about consumables in a different series. Consumables are like the food itself, the water, the fuel, that sort of thing. These are the things that you bring with you that you use up as you go and have to replenish as you go along. And that really feeds more into the trail routine. So I'm going to cover those in the trail routine series. So all I'm going to cover in the rest of this series is the clothes, the trekking poles, hiking boots, and food storage related things. Okay, so let's take an inventory of my miscellaneous things. The first thing, and we're all familiar with, is your phone. I can't show you a picture of my phone because the phone is taking this video. But here's a screenshot of it, and you can see my late dog Rosemary there. Such a beautiful creature she was. And the applications that I use, you can see them at the top there. There is the Earthmate application. That actually comes with my Garmin InReach tracker. I've talked about the InReach tracker in my On the Trail series. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, given that I've covered it elsewhere. But it's an important safety piece of safety equipment. There is the gut hook application. There's actually two icons up there for the gut hook application. I got to get rid of the older one. Gut hook is one of those. It's actually a free application. They use the old razor blades and razors business model. You get the application for free, but if you want to use it out on the trail, you have to buy the maps, and they're really not that expensive. A 202 to 300 mile stretch of trail is covered with, I think, like a $9 database of maps. And when I say map, it's more than just maps. It's comments by other hikers who give you useful information. It's descriptions of the things out there, whether it's shelters. In Pennsylvania, for example, even the stealth campsites were all well marked and described in there. Places to resupply, hostels, all that sort of stuff. It's just like it's like with your GPS. Once you start using your GPS, you wonder how you got by with maps. Well, once you start using Gut Hook, or there are other products that do the same thing as Gut Hook. I don't know the names of them, but I know not all hikers use Gut Hook, but almost all hikers use something that performs that function. But you wonder how you got by without this before. It's just critical. Another thing is I do have a compass on there. You can see the icon with the red arrow. Just, beats carrying a compass, just another thing to lose. I also throw on a heart rate monitor. This one that I use, it was free. You hold your finger over the camera and take your heart rate. Just sometimes I'm curious if I've gone up to the top of a hill and I'm short of breath, like how's my heart doing? There's a little text editor program there. I just use that for, logging things. At the end of every day, if I'm on a longer trip, I have a little journal, and that's what I use to log. And you can see I have an Amtrak application on there. It's just when I made train reservations, when I was out in the middle of the woods, download this app. I'm like, fine, I'll do it, because I'll probably be depending on trains quite a bit. It's much more convenient to travel by train with your equipment than it is by plane. Maybe technically you're not supposed to bring your fuel, but I felt safe bringing my Esbit fuel with me back on the train. So now I have this thing that I call my bag of miscellaneouses. And it's just basically, it's actually kind of heavy because I got a little extra stuff in here, but it's some of the stuff that I carry. For example, I have this 28.8 amp hour recharger. It does weigh 12 ounces. It's good for a longer trip where you may be a long way between opportunities to recharge. It does a trickle charge, so typically what I would do with that is overnight just recharge my phone. And my inReach doesn't need to be recharged as much, at least the way I use it, but I still recharge that like every few days. Another one I have, and maybe in the description I'll put links to where to acquire these, is a PowerAdd. Now this is only, they say 5,000 milliamp hours, 5 amp hours. I can't recharge as much. On a shorter trip though, or a trip in which you're going to have a lot of opportunities to plug this in to recharge this, such as at a hostel, this may be sufficient. Now, this one was a kind of a Chinese cheap knockoff of some others. It takes a long time to charge. Its capacity would make that the case, but typically I was able to recharge it by, if I was in a hostel, I would just plug it in and recharge it overnight, at least if it was down like to 50% or something like that. Of course, and if you're going to have a charger, you're going to have the proper adapters and cords for it. So I bring a couple just because they're real light, and I'm always worried about losing them. I have this little adapter specifically for my Samsung. How do I get this right? There we go, for the Samsung, because my Samsung Galaxy phone's just got a different connector. The inReach uses the standard USB-C, I think it's called. Another thing I bring in there is my headlamp. One of the worst pieces of advice I've ever seen anywhere was you don't need to bring a headlamp because you can just use your cell phone as a flashlight. And it's funny because Dan Becker actually had one of his videos was on what's the worst advice you've ever seen, and then he solicited ideas for what were the worst that we've ever seen or heard. And I don't even know where I got that advice, but I immediately rejected it. So I submitted this one, and this idea is really silly because I don't like hiking at night, and some people do, but generally I avoid it. But sometimes you just can't help it. You get stuck. It's like, it was a harder hike to get to the campsite you were headed for than you realized. It was going to take longer. You might want to set up a stealth camp, but you're on the side of a hill. You just can't find anything flat, so you're forced to hike after dark. And holding up your flashlight when you're trying to, holding up your phone as a flashlight when you're trying to walk with trekking poles, for example, just doesn't strike me as a good idea. You know, it's unsafe enough to me. It seems unsafe enough to hike after dark that compounding it with a kind of a silly idea of using your phone as a flashlight just doesn't make sense. And finally, the other thing is I did have a bootlace failure on my last trip, and I scored an aftermarket bootlace that some lady, some kind lady, she had bought bootlaces for her husband's boots, and he only needed one, and so she gave me the other one. I just keep that in there, just one of those things in case it ever breaks. So that's my, the other adapter I forgot to mention is, of course, you need to be able to plug into the wall when you're at a hostel or at a, someplace with an electrical source. So just don't forget to bring this, because you just can't recharge without it. So it's useless to not have that. Okay, so there are other things that I don't keep in the bag of miscellaneouses, which I'm going to just throw everything back in there while I'm talking about. And the first is, and I mentioned this before, my Garmin InReach. This is my tracker. Snaps to the top of my pack because you want a clear view to the sky. It has various different tracking modes. I've gone over them before, but basically this tells Darlene where I am within a half an hour. There is a bug net. I thought this was kind of a wimpy thing. Darlene got it for me, but I said, I'll bring it with me. This is a Bins and Visi net. And I throw that into the mesh because, if the bugs are getting at me, I need to, maybe take off my pack real quick, grab this out of the mesh pocket in the front of the pack. And I actually have used it, and I was glad I had it. Very lightweight. I mean, it's got to be less than an ounce. It doesn't take up much room, and it's just like, when the bugs are getting to you, you can put on bug, the bug lotion that I talked about in the last video, but it's nice to have this. Okay, the next thing is a clothesline rope, and I actually keep this in with my tent stakes, and the reason for that is, this is clothesline rope, is that when I set up camp, one of the first things I want to do is set up my clothesline. This, I don't know how long it is. I should have measured it. I don't know, 50 feet or something. This can also be used for, doing a food bag, bear bag hang. I sometimes use it for both at the same time. And, I've received some criticism for that. You're hanging your bear bag too close to your camp. I'm like, I don't know. I've done it. I've never had a bear get into my food. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Interesting story with this. I used to have a black one that Darlene got me, which was a very nice one. And I was at a camp with actually another hiker named Bad Mojo, and he was saying, a black rope, that's a bad idea because you miss it in the dark. And I scoffed. I said, I've had this thing for years. I haven't missed it in the dark. And then I went to open the bag, and I remember thinking, I don't remember ever putting this in there. So this was my second day on the trail on a long hike, and I had already lost the my clothesline / bear hanging rope. Bad Mojo, he had an extra, and hiker helping hiker, he actually gave me this. So thanks to Bad Mojo for that, and I still have it, and now I've developed a trail routine where I won't lose it. Okay, another thing is the hiking wallet. I have a big fat wallet, credit cards and all that crap in it. So I don't bring that stuff with me completely out on the trail. So what I do bring in this, of course, is one check, cash, credit card, my license, my AMC membership card. Sometimes it's good for some discounts. Like the hut system, sometimes they ask you to show it to them that you prove that you remember when you're in the White Mountains. And most importantly, bring your medical insurance card. I forgot to mention that when I was talking about when I got the second-degree burns on my legs, but I had it with me, so I was able to go to the to the clinic where I got treated and not have to worry about calling home, having to fax the information to the clinic or anything like that. Had it with me, so just consider what you need to bring in your wallet. I also when it's appropriate, like if I've driven to where I'm hiking, I leave there's a little pocket in here. This is a north face. I put my key in there, the car key in there. It was interesting. If you leave your car at a hostel, quite often they'll ask you to leave the key, just as a safety precaution. They may need to move the car or something like that. And I have no problem with that, and I always leave the key. And the last time I was dropped off by a hostel, the guy mentioned to me, he said, "Oh, by the way, did you leave the key to your car?" And I said, "Yeah, I left it with Eileen. It's, hanging on the keyboard." He said, "Oh, good, because there was a guy who refused to leave his key, and he ended up losing it when he was out hiking, which is, to me, was great karma. Unfortunately, somebody found it. He was reunited with his key, but it would have served him right for that." So that's the hiking wallet. And finally, well, a couple more things. First, there's handkerchiefs. I have several colors of handkerchiefs. I actually found a new color for me. I mean, I had a green one and this black one, and I found a blue one out on the trail, and it was brand new. I mean, the dye was still running out of it, and I washed it up, and now I have a third one. And the reason you might have different colors is you might use this simply as a, one color to wash things and another color to wash yourself. I mean, these are just so handy to have something like that out there. And then finally, it is hefty freezer bags. Nice, sturdy. Get the freezer bags. I got a box of 25 when I was out on the trail, and the trail angel who gave me a ride, I said, "Well, do you want any of these? I don't need that many." She said, No, you should keep them. And if you remember when I talked about being at the Dahlgren backpackers camp, I did give some to some other hikers, and they told me all the great things you could do with these. I mean, this is for keeping things dry, for keeping dirty clothes separate from clean clothes, maybe keeping things that are wet from getting your other stuff wet. I'll put my roll of toilet paper and something like this, because that's going to be in my mesh pocket. I'll put my water filter in here if I think it's going to get cold and I need to put the water filter. I mentioned that in my water filter video. I may need to put it in my sleeping bag. So that's pretty much my inventory of miscellaneous stuff. It's highly individualized. What works for me might not work for you, but just some ideas for you to consider.